You have reached the United States Department of Justice. If you would like information on how to reach the Department of Justice website, press 1. If you would like information on how to email the Department of Justice, press 2. If you would like information on the mailing address for the Department of Justice, press 3. If you would like to speak to a Department of Justice operator, press 0. To hear these options again, press...
Wait while I transfer your call.
Department of Justice, Operator 52. How may I direct your call?
Yeah, is there a FARA registration unit? Or somebody that handles matters of the Foreign Agent Registration Act? I got it off the website.
Registration unit.
Yeah, this is the FARA registration unit?
It is, yes.
Okay. I've been doing some research on this, and anybody that basically works for a foreign principal, they're required to be registered under the FARA Act of 1938, right?
Right.
Okay. So if somebody's not registered under that, like a lawyer or a judge or a police officer or something like that, how does the public go about figuring out that information and enforcing that information to the forefront?
Well, you can do a search and see if they are registered online. They also, there's a definition for foreign principal, and so there has to be the foreign principal has to be a certain kind of foreign entity. Usually it's a foreign government or foreign political party.
Okay. And if we're being equal, the United States is a foreign corporation. By definition, it's a federal corporation. You know, I mean, people are researching.
Not as defined by our statute, it's not.
But it's not within line of the organic constitution and original territories of the union. So is what I'm saying. So it is a foreign system. I mean, if you look it up, it doesn't say country or government or anything.
It
like
does.
that.
If a foreign principal is defined by our statute is any country that's not the United States.
Any country that's not the United States. That's
exactly.
What foreign principal.
Any country that's not the United States is considered a foreign principal, somebody outside of the United States.
Okay, but that was changed at one point. It wasn't like that at one point.
It's always been like that.
In the United States, by definition, I mean, I'm just like I've been reading.
The statute was written in the 1930s, and the definition of a foreign principal back then said a foreign principal is anyone outside of the United States. That's how the statute is defined, and that's how we enforce it.
Right.
If you want to read anything else into it, then it might not be.
The United States constitutes the 10 square miles of D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, and the territories and subject to the jurisdiction thereof the United States, which would be the corporate body politic territories of the states, cities, counties, and municipalities. So it's a layer, is what I'm saying. It's a layer. And if you really go back and you really look at what the United States is, it's a layer over the original organic land and territories of America. You know, I mean,
that very well may be, but for the purposes of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, it's anyone outside of the United States.
That sounds like a ruse, then, man. You know, because I said that kind of sounds like a ruse. That sounds like the system is a ruse, then, because they wrote it for themselves but the United States is not a country. Like I said, it's D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, and the corporate territories of the states and cities and counties. You know, I mean, that was all changed, that was all altered, and all I'm saying is it's very frustrating living today and realizing these things that weren't taught in school, that isn't public information, you know, general knowledge of the people, and, you know, people that work in these offices and these courts, they don't know anything about this stuff either. But it doesn't mean that they're not belligerent to that information, you know, and if we're a system of truth and fairness and equality, then all matters and all information should be considered, and it's not. You know, so when I was looking at the Foreign Agent Registration Act, you know, I figured that was kind of a fail-safe or kind of a protection for the people to say, hey, look, you got, you know, to basically get the information together, because all these cops and these lawyers and these judges, they work for the United States. They work for the rewritten Constitution of the United States, not the organic one, which was ratified in the War of 1812, you know, when the White House burned down and all that. So technically, when you look at it, you know, in interest of protection of the people, you would look at it and say, well, then they would have to be registered as foreign agents, because they don't serve the people. They work for the United States.
That's not how the statute was written, nor is it how we interpret it, nor is it how it's enforced.
Yeah, I know, but history doesn't correlate directly to it to really, you know, be unambiguous with a explanation of what it is. I mean, yeah, the United States can write whatever they want, and they do, you know, but at the end of the day, it is a foreign corporation. You know, when you really look at it, has it done in Bradstreet number that I think it's registered in Great Britain. You know, a lot of companies, United States companies. At the end of the day, we got to get on the same page. It doesn't matter where somebody works. It doesn't matter what somebody does. At the end of the day, I mean, the traits and the characteristics of honesty, integrity, and, you know, people that say, I swear an oath to, you know, protect people against foreign and domestic terrorists and all that, they need to follow that. And they need to really look at what that is, you know, because our system is one that's been subjugated and obfuscated, you know, in a very esoteric manner, where people don't know what it means. And like you said, the statute doesn't say that. That's not how we interpret it. But you're not putting all details and all information that's pertinent from history, real history, you know, not just somebody's interpretation of history, or somebody that won a war a long time ago and they chose to write it whatever way they want. You know, like the Treaty of Paris that was signed in 1783, which was actually the original, the reason why, you know, the Revolutionary War ended. Had nothing to do with us fighting to the death and getting our independence, you know, but it's a great story to the people, you know, growing up. But it's just simply not true. You know, I mean, that's when they put the 70-year reoccurring charters in place. That's when they took over the sovereignty of the territories, the land, the people. That's when they started doing the birth certificates in a very esoteric manner on $10,000 commercial paper. You see where I'm getting at. It's not right. And the United States did that. The United States is a colony, basically, of Great Britain. If we're being fair, that's what it is. It has nothing to do with you or me as Americans on this land. It has nothing to do to protect us. It's everything to make money and profit off the people, off of their ignorance, off of what they don't know, off of, you know, a skewed version of history that they were taught. And, you know, I mean, not to go, you know, deep or you know, get too far off topic, but we got to look at that. You know, I mean, that's the only way to really fix things, because a lot of people are going to realize this stuff as they are. You know, they're trying to get information honored in these courts with these police. And look, like I said, when you look at how these police and how these courts were erected, and you look at things that they do and things like the court registry investment system, the CRIS system, that's so the courts can make money. You look at the fact that they're set up like private for-profit businesses. That's not going to be cool in the eyes of anybody. And I realize we're a society. We're supposed to be ingrained. We're supposed to be controlled. We're supposed to just follow along. But not everybody's like that. Some people actually look into things. Some people question things. Some people stand up for what's right and against what's wrong. Regardless of what opposition is in place or what is the precipice of that element. The cops don't do that. The government doesn't do that. There's no government. I mean, government, when you break down the word of government, means to control the mind. So we do have a system of controlling minds, but that doesn't make us any different than the Roman Empire, Nazi Germany, Soviet Union, or anything like that. It's the same people in charge. It's the same people that have been controlling things and dictating things from the very beginning. So I was just trying to call you guys and try to figure out how we can get on the same page, put this information together, work together, and get the truth out there. And I mean, you're saying that foreign agent, excuse me, the definition of foreign agent is anything outside the country of the United States, but the United States is not a country. It's not. It's a territory. And I guarantee if you get the United States records, a lot of them would go back to Great Britain. A lot of them would go to being privately owned, as these courts, these ecclesiastic, public chartered courts that are set up, they're all private. There's nothing public about it. They're not set up to help the people. They're set up to manipulate the people and deceive the people. Just the fact that affidavit has an all caps, capitis diminuta maxima name. You go back to Roman terminology with that name, it means complete loss of status. So how obtuse are we to believe that we're free when we were born into slavery? We were born into a complete loss of status. From the status of one of a free man converted into one of a slave because of past wars with King George and the Roman Empire and the church and all that. I mean, it's not true. It's very difficult to live in America. I don't say the United States. I don't live in D.C., but it's very difficult to live here right now, knowing all that information and being in a society where it's completely set up where nobody knows that information. It's just it's a life of insanity. It really is. And even the people, like you are, you're working for the Department of Justice and everything. Well, what justice is there if you guys aren't working to change that information, to help the people, to let the people know that's what it is, to stand up to the people that have put those things in place? Those are questions that people don't want to answer. But why not? I mean, you can't really fault people like me because I'm learning this stuff, researching this stuff, and cross-referencing and discerning information, because you have to in society, to bring this information up, because you guys are saying you're doing one thing, but you're not, because you're not doing it according to this information of what's actually true, of what's actually just and fair. So I don't mean to give you a whole rant, man, but I'm passionate about this stuff, and I do read a lot. I do research. It's constant. It's a constant re-education process that we have to do to really find out what's going on. And I do realize that the majority of society doesn't know this information, but they should. And companies way up like yours is, I mean, maybe you can't because you work for the United States. Maybe it's not designed that way. But at the end of the day, if that's the case, that's war crimes. That's deception. That's manipulation. That's what that is. It's not a system of, like I said, freedom or fairness or equality or anything like that. So I would be a lot better off if we could just get on the same page and You guys tell us we're your slaves, you know, on paper, and then we're dead, and then we're lost at sea according to Admiralty law and blah, blah, blah. So that, because it hurts when you're being lied to. You know what I mean? Like, it's better to know than not to know. You know, people that are deceiving you, you'd rather they would just come out and say, yeah, I'm deceiving you. You know, I lied to you purposely so I could profit, so I can, you know, conquer American land or whatever. If we can get on the same page, that'd be great. But being in a society with a bunch of cognitive dissonant people, you know, because they're programmed that way, it's not their fault 100%. You know, we're all brought up in this. Yeah, it'd just be better if we could all get on the same page. Everybody could do their research, find out what's true, find out what's real. And the people that say that they swear to protect the people, start doing it. That's not what's going on.
Well, we're going to continue doing things the way we are until things change.
Does some of what I'm saying make sense, though? I mean, I researched well, man.
The kind of research that you have done, so I can't really speak intelligently on that kind of stuff. But it sounds like you've done a lot of research, and you know, if that's the subject you're interested in, I suggest you continue to read up on it, and
It would just be nice if we all did that. You know, I mean, you don't have to believe what I'm saying. You just, you know, I think if you work for the Department of Justice, you have a higher obligation to do that. You know, and these cops too. You know who they're working for, know what they're doing, know what position they really are embodying in society. And like I said, right when you go to court, your paperwork has that all caps name. Your bank account has that all caps name. You know, Social Security number is attached to an exemption account with the Federal Reserve because of House Joint Resolution 192. There is no way to pay debts. It says you got people passing out tickets, arresting people for debts. And I think it says in the constitutions of the territories that no man shall be arrested for a debt. Because there is no debt. It's all debt. You know, the thing is that the United States, which is a foreign entity, made itself the creditors and made the people the debtors through unconscionable adhesion contracts, through the birth certificates, Social Security numbers, and all that. You know, I talked to a lady with Vital Check, and she told me that I always wondered why it says banknote company on the birth certificates. Basically, we were put up for collateral for the bankruptcy of the United States during Franklin Delano Roosevelt's administration. And she basically told me that what that means is if that was a blank document, that piece of paper would be worth $10,000 without even being filled out. So our names, when we're born, were put on commercial bank bond paper worth $10,000. The only reason somebody would do that is to invest through the open markets and make more money off of it. So we're basically a collateralized cash crop in our lives, basically, esoterically. And I believe most of the system doesn't know what they're doing because there's like 50 to 70 people probably doing one task. But at the end of the day, if they got together and put all those details together of what they're doing, I think they would see a very different picture. I would appreciate if, you know, people that work for companies like yours would research this stuff and say, you know what, these guys are right. And wow, what do we do? Because that's the only way that things are going to change. You know, America's being raped. It's being extorted. It's probably the biggest robbery and the biggest war crime against humanity there's ever been. Same thing with the mortgage markets and all that. You know, I mean, why does the mortgage company sell the note the moment they get it signed, you know, with somebody that gets a new house? It's because according to the United States, you can't be a lender because there's no credit to the the monetary instruments that we use. So they sell it. That's fraud right there. Our whole system operates off fraud because we don't have anything intrinsic of value, to our money system. And that gives people the arbitrary ability to A, control the lives of the people, and B, control everything that those people do. And I really wish there was a way that we could all get on the same page. You guys could look into this stuff and cross-reference it. You guys have more resources. Like I said, you work for the United States, so if you started looking into this stuff and researching and asking questions, I'm sure, you might end up in a uncomfortable predicament. But at the end of the day, I think it's all of our inherent obligation to, stand up for what's right. Like I said, regardless of what the opposition is, regardless of what the government says, because there is no government. Those offices have been vacant since the 1700s. Since the South walked out Sinai during the Civil War, and that's when they put the Lever Code, the Hague Convention, the War Powers Act. Martial law was declared during Lincoln's administration, during Lever Code Order number 100, and that's never been repealed. And that's why the president or the CEO of the United States Corporation can issue executive orders nonstop, and every president before him. And what has that done? The Patriot Act, Homeland Security, and all that. It's taken away the rights and liberties of the people. It's basically made it where people can't even breathe. I think it was Henry Ward Beecher that said that when laws are girded too tight, and you can't even let out a breath, there's no liberty. Liberty is by definition a soul's right to breathe. We don't even have that anymore. And there's a lot of questions that, that a lot of people have behind the so-called reasons of why those executive orders were put into place. But again, the United States has no answers. I think those are major red flags for the people. And at the end of the day, look, I don't care if I was talking to the White House right now. What's right is right, and the people are the voice, and they always will be, because we're the ones without something to gain. We're the ones that just want to, we're the ones that represent that ideology of men and women of how they want to live, unfettered, unmolested, unaccosted, and just, the right to live without all this systematic red tape in place, So I'll always maintain that. Like I said, I wish you guys would open up a department, which I know you never will, where we could talk about this stuff and we could research it, because that would be equal protection under law. That would be due process of law. That doesn't even exist right now, because the moment somebody signs and goes into court, like I said, the judge says your name, John Doe. You say it's you. You just admitted yourself as the trustee of that security interest that the United States created by deception and fraud and identity theft. It's a foreign situs trust and a Sesta QV trust in the Sesta QV Act of 1666 during the Roman Empire. Now, why is America affected by those things? Probably because we never really got our independence from Great Britain. That would be my guess. But people that are in the military, people that are in government, people that, really are gung-ho about, their allegiance to the United States and all that, they don't even look at that stuff. And that's our problem right there, is that nobody's looking at pertinent information to really prove that that's what they're doing, that what they're doing is the right thing, and who they're working for are the right people. So, I feel like my concerns are merited, and they're pretty complex. is there any way you can get me in touch with somebody that I can speak further with, and they can research further? And because all I'm doing is I'm trying to do what's right, man. You know,
there's nobody I can put you in touch with. I would suggest maybe finding, similar-minded people that are interested in this subject, and you guys get together and talk about it, and and go from there. I mean, there's nothing I can do. There's nobody. I don't even know who I would put you in touch with.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry for giving you all that at once. But.
Right. Well, I mean, I would say that you're probably not the only person that is interested in this kind of stuff, and I would find people that are, and then you all can talk about it and come up with some kind of, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, this.
No, I know.
I'm just not educated on this subject like you are.
Does it interest you though?
I mean, I don't know.
You don't know? Oh.
Well, it's a lot of information that I
know.
don't have time to sit here and digest it just yet. So
I know. I'm sorry to hit you with it all at once, but I mean, I feel like it's necessary. It's mandatory. When you really look into all that information, and you're just like, wow. And there are people that are like-minded, and we're doing what we can. The FBI created their own little sovereign citizen movement, which is an oxymoron, and it's to discredit people that are on the path of trying to be free and trying to figure out what's right and what's wrong, and catch them up, and also to kind of keep, regular citizens at bay, from stepping outside and looking at the same information. Because if you have a collectivity of society getting together and researching this stuff and learning this stuff, now there's no more control, and that doesn't mean it's going to be chaos. It just means it's people like, you know what, I'm not doing this because of this, this, and this, and this, and until you answer this, I don't have to do this. And that's the issue, is that we've grown up in a society where we've always been told, well, we got people for that. You got legal problems, we got lawyers for that. You got health problems, we got doctors for that. But it's all a completely arbitrarily controlled system. We got banks, we got all that too. But at the end of the day, when you start doing your research, you realize you can do this stuff yourself. You can learn to heal yourself. You can learn to heal your own body. You can learn to, learn how to not represent yourself, because they're legal fictions. They can only deal with legal fictions. But, you can, learn the law yourself. You can learn how to put pieces together yourself. But we're not taught that way. We're not taught to be self-sufficient. We're taught to be reliant on a system and just assume we're free and assume that everything's going to be taken care of and nobody's going to be taking advantage of us in those areas. Well, we reached the point where we realize that's not true. And when you look at these lawyers and all that, they got Esquire, on their business cards. If you look at the term Esquire, it's a title of nobility to a king or a queen. That's what it says. So basically, those systems that control our system, they work for a foreign principal, which would be the British Crown. But the United States is probably like a corporation of the British Crown. So it'd be protecting its assets too, of America and everything. But yeah, I mean, we're trying. But we're up against controlled opposition. We're up against a society of people that don't want to listen, people that don't care, people who would rather watch TV, people that are corporately controlled by propaganda. It's an uphill battle. And, it would really be nice if people in positions like you're in, like I said, would start reading, researching, and, it's liberating, when you learn this stuff, because now you're not in a box anymore, and you know what things are now, as opposed to just taking somebody else's word for it. That's freedom. Learning how to be self-sufficient, that's freedom. Learning learning how to deal with, these elements of society that, whether they know it or not, they're deceiving, people in our society. It's just, it's a spiritual thing, it's a metaphysical thing, it's Twilight Zone pretty much what America has become, So we're trying, but it really would be nice if we got assistance from people that say that, we protect the people and, we stand up for the rights and we stand up for truth and we stand up for this and that. It would be nice if you guys prove that to the people, And from what I know, there's no agency out there that is doing this, and there's really no oversight to the business of the United States or anything like that. If there is, then it would just be a part of the United States. It wouldn't be a non-biased party, So I think if people like you woke up and realized this information and researched it and extensively passed it on, and we definitely need a change of our society. And the way I see it, it needs to be a conscious evolution. A revolution can only work if it's a conscious evolution, because that way there's no dispute and there's no problem. War is just going to beget more war. But if it's a conscious uprising, what can anybody say about that? I talked to cops and lawyers and asked them certain questions that they didn't want to answer, and but that was a conscious conversation. They try their little tricks to make you look like you're aggressive, to make you look like you're being negative or you're a threat, or but if you comprehend alchemy, there's ways to kind of flip that around and say that that's what they're trying. Tell them you recognize that that's what they're trying to do. But I don't want to keep you too long, man. I appreciate you listening, and like I said, I wasn't trying to hit you with too much. It's just, where do I go? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I appreciate you calling.
I appreciate you listening, man. And like I said, if you retained any of that, I would just encourage you to look into it and just live according to what's right and what's true, and stand against what's wrong, regardless of what it is. I think that's all our obligation. But I'll keep on the journey, man. Like I said, I appreciate it.
All right. All right. Thank you.
All right. You have a good day.
Bye. You too. Bye.